What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Learning the Way in Business. I'm your host, Yelesay. Appreciate you guys coming on to this episode. I'm excited about this one. I've been waiting for this for a little while now.
This is fun for a lot of reasons. I've never recorded one out here.
Yeah, well, I'm at Mike's house right now for you guys that don't know. And I want to introduce him to you guys in a minute. But yeah, we're recording at his house, supposed to be at a studio, but things turned out. He invited me over. So I really do appreciate that, bro. But I'm excited for this episode for many reasons, obviously. I've been following Mike for a little while, and I'm in his coaching group. And it's one thing I've also wanted to talk about and introduce this to you guys as well, because I know there came a time where I was in a mastermind, but it just helped me so far to where I needed a coach. And I mean, he was local. I knew I was following some of the coaches he had, and I figured to give it a shot. And I gave it a shot, and it's awesome. Awesome. So I wanted to introduce you guys. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, man. No, I appreciate it. This is fun. This is unique. This is different. Obviously, I got some projects I'm trying to do at the house, and I was like, hey, let me let you look at it. And I looked at the timing, and I'm like, why drive all the way to you on Monday if you're coming to my house on Tuesday? And I knew Cooper was going to be here today. So this is as good as we can make it happen.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate you being flexible on it, but it's cool to watch young podcasters making it happen. So I host the Big Stud podcast for any of you that may not know that. My name is Mike Claudio.
Yeah, Mike Claudio.
But the Big Stud podcast has been around for almost, I guess I started in 2019. So 3.5 years. I've released 350 episodes. So it's kind of cool to see, new people get a podcast going. Because if you don't know this is some credit to you. I don't know if this statistic is the same, but at some point last year, it was the average podcast only lasts 7 episodes.
Oh, right.
So people start it and they don't see it through, or they start it for the wrong reasons, or they're doing it for the wrong reasons. But I think watching, you've exceeded the 7th, right? So now you're above average.
Yep.
And so
still got to break into that.
No, but it's cool to see people because it gives you a voice. I think it teaches you how to communicate. It teaches you how to interview. It teaches you how to think and respond quickly. It's so many skill sets I've learned over the years of doing this, from interviewing to answering questions to all the things. So it's cool. So I'm excited to see your journey as you progress through this.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling that. Where the people quit at 7 because they don't really see a reason, or it's just sometimes I'm at that mark to where I'm pushing myself to do more, right?
Yeah.
Because when I just started, there's this cool energy, I'm doing it. Now it's business is taking up a lot of time. So it's necessary to create time to do this. But like you said, it creates that skill of interviewing and asking people questions, which is awesome too. And I know if I continue at it, I won't regret just dropping out.
When it gives you access to people too, I've interviewed people that I would have never gotten a conversation with. I recently interviewed Brad Lee, which was an incredible interview. Steve Weatherford, Ryan Stewman, some people that I probably would have had, conversations with otherwise. And, that's cool too, because it gives you a leg up on other people who want, we'll say, influential people's time. What have you done to earn it? And sometimes just, when I called Steve Weatherford, and do you know who Steve Weatherford is? So I called Steve and I was like, hey man, I'm at my 100th episode. I'd love to interview you. I had done something more than most to even get his attention to be willing to even have the conversation. So now I'm excited to see where you take this. And obviously you got a lot of great connections out there in the world right now. So
yeah, definitely.
I won't say for a kid your age, man,
you could say that.
No, you've done some really amazing things. You're way ahead of where I was. And I was an employee at your age, making less than $100,000 a year. And, so it's cool to see what you're doing.
I appreciate it. I will add to that is you guys are the win rate team. You, Sam, my coach, is play a big role with inspiring me, because a lot of the times I get thoughts of why am I doing this, right? Why am I so persistently building a business when I get knocked down, I stand up and do it. And looking up to the groups, looking up to you, looking up to Sam who's coaching me, I'm there's a reason why. These guys are farther ahead of me. There's something they received out of pursuing it, right? So it's something that helps me keep going. I appreciate you for that. I wanted to ask you, I heard a little bit about this, but I'm curious about it myself. Out out of everything, why did you pursue coaching? Like, why did you just decide win rate consulting is going to be the thing?
Yeah.
Or how did you get into it?
No, it's a fair question. So, I'll give a high level overview. So I started my career in corporate America and I worked there for a while. And then a good friend of mine at the time was running a remodeling company, kind of like looking for a way to grow. And I was like, I can help you. So I helped him grow his company from like an employee level. And then I moved on to a roofing company, helped them grow from an employee level. And in the course of that 5 or 6 years, I helped these companies grow. I started getting a lot of questions around like, well, what are you doing? How are you solving this? How are you doing that? All those things, right? And I started helping people just to help people. I didn't know when I first started WinRate, I didn't know coaching as an industry. I didn't know masterminds. I didn't know the e-commerce, like online coaching space. I just know like helping people. And so in 2018, when I started the LLC, I just went to people I knew and was like, hey, I think I can help you with this. What are you willing to pay for that? And that's kind of how my coaching career started. And I started helping some people locally to Charlotte and then started getting some content going, I got a part of Apex, started part of a mastermind and started getting connected. And like, I would say I joined Arete in 2019. And I think that was kind of my, like, I feel like I opened a door to a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being around like high performing entrepreneurs, like nothing against the guys I worked for, but they just weren't this. Like they weren't what you know to be as entrepreneurs and high motivated to go out and make an impact, right? They were about making money and not working as much and like not knocking the guys. It's just I'm grateful for them. I learned a lot from them.
Your visions were just different.
But like you get into Arete,
it's not what you want.
Right? You get around Ed and Andy and you get around like, you know, like the Aaron Nashes of the world who were just these like highly motivated, inspiring, like passionate people. And you're like, I didn't know this was a thing, but this is who I am. Like now I feel like I can be myself. And so that's really where like WinRate turned into something. Because when I first started, it was just helping people I knew, for like practically nothing because I just enjoyed doing it. And then it really turned into something more when I kind of uncovered more about like the impact of coaching. You know, I went from and really what you know it as now is even new. Like you have like a year ago, I had like less than 50 clients and 4 employees.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have 17 employees now a year later and over 100 clients, you know, so even like it was kind of this like hockey stick of growth, right? Like, so I went through this kind of grind to get it to what you see it is today is even new for me. You know, we just had our operations meeting. There's fucking 8 people in that meeting now. It used to be me and Lindsay go, what are we going to do next week? Now we're talking about like, what are we going to do in 2024? Right. And so as the machine has grown, you know, now I'm more of a CEO than a coach. You know, that was definitely an intentional transition I made over the last year was like get out of that head coaching role and really get into the CEO role. So
you pretty much like release that because you're saying like that hockey stick growth, you were in that grind for a little while. And then would you say that prepared you to skyrocket on to the growth?
No one can be prepared for the skyrocket.
No, like did that set you up for it or was that something you intentionally did to grow?
No, I mean, I definitely focused on helping one person at a time, you know, being the best coach I could be in the moment, being very consistent. You know, I believe I have a reputation as somebody who just does what he says he's going to do. And so I don't take shortcuts. I don't chase shiny objects. Like, you know, I've gotten a lot of feedback from people and how impressed they've been with my ability to be on the same mission for this. Like, you've never seen me like pivot to something else.
Right.
You know, I've been one mission, one focus, one passion, one intent for 5 years. And I think that's where the hockey stick happens is like, you don't know when it's going to happen and you don't know where it's going to come from and you don't know who that outlet's going to be or that person or that conversation. You know, I am like my mission statement is to make an impact with every conversation I have. So only focus on one conversation at a time. I'm not thinking about, well, how is this podcast going to pay off for me later? Like, no, it's like, man, you like went out, you had the balls to go do this. You had the balls to ask me to be on your podcast and like, okay, let's do this. I'm not worried about like tomorrow.
Right.
Do I stress about cash flow? Do I stress about certain things like most business owners on occasion? Yes. But in general, I focus on today. And I think that's what's helped me kind of ride the wave effectively is it's been a consistent daily focus on a routine more than the result. Like I'm big on fall in love with the process, the results will happen. Like I operate my day the same now that I did when I was making 10 grand a month. Mm-hmm. You know, now we're making 300 grand a month, right? So, but the daily routine is the same. That's where people change. I think that's where people end up losing the momentum is when they get to a certain level, they stop doing the things that got them there. I'm like, my morning routine is practically the same it was 3 years ago. My content strategy is practically the same it was 3 years ago. My intent and mission statement and core values are the same it was 3 years ago. It hasn't changed. So did the grind help me be prepared? Maybe, but every step of the growth happened one day at a time.
Right.
And so every day I evolved 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%. The compounding effect of that 1% growth over 5 years is what you see today. But there wasn't like this giant leap. It was just a little bit better consistently over time.
I'll agree on that, because even with coaching with Sam, I've noticed that I had a tendency to beat myself up really bad, because I'm like, I'm not doing anything significant. I'm not doing things big enough. When I start doing coaching with Sam, like looking back, I'm like, I've made so much progress since when I start working with him. But it wasn't because I started doing these huge things. It was because it was one little pivot after every single call, right? And it's like after a call, you might think like there probably wasn't something huge that he said, but then there's this one thing that he said and I took action on that I'm looking back like, shoot, this thing helped me out. Like in the past month, it did huge. Like it changes, like what you said, 1% better.
Well, the difference is when you stay consistently getting better every day, you don't have that giant dip. What I see that messes a lot of people up is they have this lack of focus that happens for a period of time, and they gain weight or lose money or fire a bunch of people or like whatever it is, right? They have this dip at some point because they lose focus and consistency. Like growth looks like this little itty bitty chart. The people that you see have these giant spikes in their charts. Those are the ones that like appear successful today, and then you don't see them on social media for 6 months. Like those are the people that like, oh, I'm not doing enough compared to this snapshot of their life. But then you don't see like, because they don't get online and talk about the failure they had the following day.
Right.
And so I think like having that daily consistent focus allows you not to have these giant fall offs, these giant dips, these giant like lack, where you lose focus or discipline for a period of time. I think that's what really holds people back.
Because when you dip in, it takes more time to get back up to where you were rather than if you were just going out.
No, dude, success is incredibly boring. It's incredibly monotonous. It's incredibly repetitive. It's incredibly, is it working or not? Because it's like when you lose weight or gain weight, right? You don't see it because you just see little changes over time. That's real success. You never see it because it doesn't have these massive swings. It doesn't like, you can say, oh, right now, like, man, I'm not winning, but like, you're talking about like getting into your own space. You couldn't even consider that 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But you're feeling like I'm not doing enough.
Yep.
So like, what's the comparative analysis, right? I just want to make sure that I'm living up to like who I want to be and what I want to be known for, and sticking to my values along the journey.
Yeah. You've kind of got to look back and I think is like look back at the chart and analyze and see like
100%.
You can't look back. Obviously, you've got to always propel forward, but I think you've got to reflect, because if you don't reflect, you think you're not doing nothing. You think you're not making.
There's a difference between like staying in the past and analyzing previous results. I think people say all the time, like, you got to look forward. You got to look forward. True. I don't disagree with that. But if you don't analyze some of the results from the activities you're doing to say, well, is what I'm doing getting me the results I want? If you don't ever look back to see if it's actually working, you'll never pivot your trajectory. You won't change the way you're doing anything. So I'm huge on looking back. Like every 90 days, we analyze what went well, what didn't go well, what are we going to do differently this quarter? It's a regular 90-day activity. And it's not like, oh my God, I wish. No, it's like, okay, what was the facts? What is the truth about then? What is the truth about now? What do we need to do next? So I think it's a snapshot. It's an analysis of results. It's an analysis of progress. It's not a living in the past. I think there's people that get stuck. I wish this, or if that wouldn't have happened, I'd be successful. Well, you, it happened.
Right.
Go do something about it. Like, you can't change it. You can't be like, oh, if that person wouldn't have screwed me, I'd be successful today. That was like 4 years ago, bro. Like, at what point does that stop becoming the thing that you hold on to as your defining moment? I made a comparative analysis. Like, I failed out of college. Mm-hmm. And I made a commitment in the moment that I was not going to let that become my defining moment. Like, I was not going to let that lack of a degree, that lack of a piece of paper be my defining moment. I could have just easily said, I didn't get a degree. That's why I'm making $50,000 a year. I could have just as easily said the same thing. Now that I know people that got degrees saying, I just can't find a good job. So, I got to do what I got to do. No, you don't. Like, that's you settling, that's you stopping, that's you not analyzing. Like, am I even happy doing this? Because if you're not, what's the point?
You're right.
And that doesn't mean you be happy all the time. There needs to be sacrifice and discipline and frustration and hard work. But so many people, I think, look back at a previous season as why they are where they are now, as opposed to like taking ownership of, I am why I am where I am now. And that, I think that's actually a freeing moment for most people when I get them to believe that, because then like I'm in charge of what's next.
Yep.
Like if I'm responsible where I am, then that means I'm responsible for where I'm going and I'm in control. I'm in a lot more control than I gave myself credit for, because we're taught, I think, in business and school and in most environments that like you are controlled by somebody else. Like, this is how to act. This is how to be. This is when to be here. This is the meetings you need to be at. Here's your schedule. Here's your grades to say if you did a good enough job based on, and it's just like, we're trained to be what other people want. And where no one, I think, is really trained to think independently.
Yeah.
And then they get stuck in we'll say the monotony of someone else's vision for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
As opposed to their own consistency.
Yes, that is true, because I told you this before, we're working on me consistently creating a schedule and abiding by it. When I started working on that with Sam, like, it dawned on me, because I've had that thing of like, I'm not really in control of my time, right? Because like I'm getting thrown in a situation, I'm getting something goes wrong here, something goes wrong there, so I'm being dragged around. But that really helped me put into perspective that I am in control of my time, right? Yes, things are going to go wrong. Things are going to go sideways, but I can always change that to 1% better in the future, right? Like right now, I'm focused on consistently doing podcasting, so it's taking a lot of my time. What also takes more of my time is being in the business, doing the physical labor.
Right.
So now I know I need to find someone to put them there so I don't have to be there. That's going to give me a whole lot of time focus on becoming better, that 1%, or giving me better access to that. So like it happens inside here first when you realize that I am in control of my time. I am in control of what happens to me. And that's when it shifts, because if there's someone that thinks that I am, that everything happens to me, right? Like feeling sorry for themselves and blaming everyone else for it. You see, they stay in that same spot. Like you were saying, living in the past, and they stay there, versus someone's like, it happens for me. Let's make the best of it. They're the ones that progress.
But even something as simple as like, man, these guys just can't do a good job. I get pulled to job sites all the time. Well, whose job is it to train them? Whose job is it to hold them accountable? Whose job is it to fire them and hire people that can do that? You know, I deal with business owners in the construction space all the time. Like, man, dude, these guys just suck. Then why are they here? Well, they're the best I can find. Well, how hard have you tried? Man, and then you ask enough questions, they realize like, shit, I actually done shit to try to solve this problem. And even that simple thing of people feeling like they're a victim to the circumstances as opposed to in control of changing them. Like if you have somebody right now that's stopping you from doing what you want in your life and you're a business owner, you can fire that person. Like no one says, like, you don't owe them anything. They don't owe you anything. Like if they're not living up to the standard, like, or if you don't have a standard, then you got to fix. Like some people need to fire themselves from leadership. Like some CEOs are some of the worst leaders I've ever met. They just decided to be a business owner and they did something good and they grew something. But you know, sometimes the biggest person needs to be fired is the CEO out of that role they shouldn't be doing.
Yep. Yeah. I agree in that. I was kind of telling you that story in the kitchen. I fired a guy in November, and I'm like thinking like he's the problem, right? Like he's the problem. He's a solution. Firing him is a solution to the problems, right? And then I let him go, and I realized that I was the problem. I was the one being toxic, not living up to the standard, not holding the other team members accountable. And it's like I was the one that needed to be fired rather than him, right? But it just so happens you owning the business. It's like even if you fire them, you still stay in there.
Oh yeah, the problems don't always disappear.
Yeah, so it's like you've got to evolve yourself in order to progress forward. How has a championship day helped you in progressing that 1% forward?
Oh, it's the accountability that makes sure I don't dip for weeks. So the championship day is a list of items that I'm fully in control of, that I have self-defined as a successful day, right? If I can execute these items, no matter what's going on in my day, I count that day as a win. I think so many people struggle with just that. Like, what does winning look like to you? most people can only define that based on what they think other people think winning looks like. And so the championship day is a daily list of action items that I'm in full control of, that where it really plays the biggest dividends is like every day I have to look at that list. And so I'm not 100% perfect. There's days I miss things. There's days I forget. There's days that I just get lazy like everybody else. I'm like, I don't want to read today or whatever it is. And like, it happens to me too. But then I have to look at that list tomorrow. And it's one of the biggest, I'm actually not that smart, and I'm actually not that disciplined, and I'm actually not that motivated. What I'm really good at is simplifying systems to overcome those weaknesses. And so what I realized is a lot of people struggle with those things. And so the things I've developed work for our employees, our customers, and everybody else. Cause like, I'm actually not that smart and not that disciplined and not that motivated. These things like the championship day allow me to self-coach and self-analyze and hold myself accountable so that I don't dip off from routines. You know, I've struggled with alcohol in my life. I've struggled with a lot of different things. And like, it comes because there's no checks and balance to the decision making. You know, having saying like, I'm only going to drink one drink on Saturday, it can turn into 7 days of 5 drinks a night pretty quickly if you don't have a checks and balance. So the championship day includes items for me, for my business, and for others. I'm big on giving. I'm big on philanthropy. I'm big on just making an impact on other people's lives. So there's items in each of those categories that I do every single day that I say, because there's so much outside my control: job sites, vendors, suppliers, customers, audience members on social media. Like, there's so much outside my control. If I base a winning day based on all of those external variables, I'll lose every day.
Yep.
But if I base my championship day and winning based on items I have determined is winning for me, no matter what's going on, because I think so many people tie their value to like their bank account or their sales numbers or what other people are saying about their brand. And the minute that dips, because it's going to dip at some point, I don't care how good of a company you are, at some point your revenue is going to be down, your profit margin is going to be down, your headcount's going to be down at some point. And if you're tying your value to that external influential number that you don't really have a lot of control over, you're going to ride a roller coaster of personal self-worth that sucks. It sucks. And so for me, the championship day is a list of action items that I have full control over executing. And that if I check those boxes, it's a winning day. And I get to mark the day as a win, and I get to celebrate that, even just acknowledge the fact I won the day. That allows me to maintain that lack of dip we talked about earlier. Like, it allows me to not fall off the cliff for any period of time.
Right.
You know, most people don't know this. Like, I used to be 330 pounds. You know, like at my biggest, I was like a 48-inch waist. You know, I'm like a 36 now. Like, I'm not as ripped as I want to be, but like, only Trevor Cowley's as ripped as he wants to be. And he's done 2-a-days for like 500 straight days, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm proud of you, Trevor, but that ain't for me, bro. Like, he runs like literally 20 miles a day. Like, that ain't gonna be me. You know, but for me, it allows me to say, okay, I'm never going to be that bad again, or I'm not going to fall that far off because of that daily accountability that I've determined. When I execute this list, I'm allowed to recognize that day as a win, no matter what's going on around me.
So whatever happens, you completed your championship day. You still won.
100%.
It doesn't matter. Do you know one of the things that I really admire about you, especially after our first TCC call and the first meetup, is you mentioned something about it now, is the honesty of, like, you're open to, like, the honesty of your struggles.
Yeah.
Because, like, so many people, they kind of mask that, even in these higher people, in these higher masterminds, right? These leaders. And then you think that it's not okay to not be okay, right? And you beat yourself up when, like, I remember in the first call, you're like, some of you guys don't know how they're going to make that payment for next month. And that was me. I was like, dude, like, this guy's talking straight to me. And you're like in the meetup, like, we're all messed up here.
Yeah.
Like, I've struggled too. I've got my own share of things, but like, that's what created that environment for me, is where I felt really, really comfortable at the first meetup, is because of that understanding that I'm not the only one that has struggles. I'm not the only person that's messed up in here.
Yeah.
There's all of us in there, but there's, like, as same as we are, or as that's a similarity that connects us together. There's also another similarity that connects us, is that we're progressing forward. We're still moving forward despite of that.
Yep.
We're not letting it sit there.
So at some point, somebody decided to market the fact that winning means not failing. And I think it's part of the school system, trying new things. And if you don't get it right, you get an F, and that's bad. But that's not life, right? And life teaches you that you have to fail forward. You have to be able to try new things. You have to be able to learn. And so when you're failing, you're not losing. Like one of my clients one time told me, he goes, man, like one of the biggest things you've given me is permission to fail, but still win. I'm like, yeah, that's like everybody, right? It's like, how many kids do you know when they started trying to walk and they tripped and fell their first try, their parents kicked them out of the house and you're a loser? None. The answer is zero, right? But then at some point, it's like, well, if you don't get something right the first try or you can't figure something out, you're a loser. No. What I use a term sometimes, and it hits me a certain way because I was big into athletics, but like no one wins a championship with a clean jersey. You're going to get dirty. You're going to get bloody. You're going to cry. It's going to hurt. It's going to suck. Your fingers are going to hurt. Your ankles are going to hurt. Your face is going to hurt. Your heart's going to hurt. That's what winning looks like, unfortunately. And we put this easy button, the Staples easy button into our lives saying, well, it's supposed to be easy. And look, I'm not going to sit here and bash online coaches because there's enough people out there doing that. But I think there's an entire marketing sector right now that is trying to sell a product to simplify or to make the success easier. Mm-hmm. You can simplify it, but it's still hard.
Right.
And like, you're still going to get dirty. You're still going to fall on your face. You're still going to do things wrong. You're still going to get injured, but that's what winning a championship looks like. You don't look at a championship team and they're all like in perfect health and condition like it's preseason. Oh, they're bandaged up. They're getting shots in this, ice on that, tape on this. Like that's what it looks like. That's what going through a season to accomplish a championship dream looks like. You're not always going to want to. It's not always going to feel good. But if you don't do the work, you will not be able to stand there at the end of the season as the only winner, as the only champion. And I think that at some point along the line, people have missed that. They've missed the point of the journey. The journey is to learn and try new things. Because I don't know about you, and I would say a majority of your audience would probably agree. The worst part of your life is when you got it all figured out and you're bored.
True.
When it's easy, that's when you get uncomfortable. But then when it gets hard, you're like, this is wrong. And so you never give yourself permission to win. And so if you're in a position right now where you're like, you took an easier option or you're like kind of settled or you got complacent, your anxiety and depression is because you're not on a mission to win. If you don't have a mission to win, you get complacent, you get bored, you get depressed, you get anxious because you're sitting stagnant. Your body's not built to be a stagnant object. It's supposed to be aggressively and violently on the move. I'm not talking about going to the mall and punching old people. Like, that's not what I mean. What I mean violently on the move. What I mean is like you have to be aggressively giving your mission everything you have. And no matter how much it hurts or no matter how frustrated or burnt out or a lack of energy you have, if you won that day, when you lay down at night, you know exactly the feeling I'm talking about. When you threw it in and you didn't put the energy in and you cut corners and you lied to people and you told a story that wasn't true and you fabricated some bullshit, you end that night anxious as shit, unable to sleep. I like sleeping. I like getting a good night's rest, right? And so I think like at some point, people made it not okay to not be okay. And I made a post a couple of days ago. I said, if more people could accept that it's okay to not be okay, more people would ask for help. And then ultimately more people would be okay. Like, that's not rocket science.
Yep.
Like if I can raise my hand and say, hey, I'm not okay. And that's okay. And then I can say, I need help. And that's acceptable. And I get help. And now I'm okay. And then I can go help other people. It becomes just contagious, just as much as knocking people for being weak or needing help or I built this on my own. There are zero self-made people anywhere and I'll say this, even if you built your entire business on your own, at some point a customer had to trust you. At some point a customer had to bet on you. At some point, somebody put their faith in you to help you make money or build momentum or do something. So if you're telling me you're self-made, you're devaluing your entire client base at least, no less the mentors, the online people, the courses you took, the things you did, the people you screwed over, the people you lied to, the people that tried to help you. To say I'm self-made is so incredibly disrespectful. It's not a badge of honor. It is not a badge of honor, in my opinion. It is something that people utilize to devalue everybody around them to make themselves feel more important. Because nobody's self-made. Because unless you went and literally printed money yourself, even then, somebody gave you the printer. Somebody got you the paper. You didn't build the printer from scratch. You didn't make the paper from scratch. You didn't make the ink from scratch. Somebody helped you accomplish that outcome. And so saying you're self-made, honestly, I get it. I understand why that perception is there and that perspective is there. I just think it's incredibly disrespectful to the people that helped you along the way.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective because I've even realized that with coaching, I've had things come up to where I'm like, it's like you either don't want to bring it up to your coach or you don't want to share it, or like you just don't want to, you're afraid to acknowledge or give them credit because your ego wants to be like, I built this. But then you think about it and as a kind of like talking with Sam and realizing when you come to moments where like I come to moments I can't do nothing anymore. I realize I need help. So when you ask for that, like it start clicking inside my head that it's okay to ask for help. And I'm not going to build this on my own, especially like right now, I'm seeing that without team members, I'm stuck, bro.
Yeah, you're an employee forever.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's like, then when you face that wall, you realize you need help. You need other people to help you to get over it.
Well, and this is the other part too. And I don't know if this is a fair statement. It's just my perspective is people who should matter to you. If you said I didn't do this on my own, would recognize you substantially more mature than someone who says they did it on their own. There's a whole audience of people that don't matter that might have an opinion like, oh, bro, you needed help. Oh, what a pussy. Well, let's look at that person's life compared to somebody who's been where you're trying to go and know what it takes to get there and know you can't carry that all on your own or you're just an employee forever. Those people that matter would respect you more by saying, I need help and I asked for it. That's way more mature and way more impressive and way more to the right people than, oh, I did this on my own. Self-made millionaire. Okay, e-commerce, you got 2 Comma Club, but it cost you $1.1 million to do it. Okay, like that's the reality. Like the 2 Comma Club is how much revenue was generated, not how much profit was collected.
Right.
But people flash this, I'm a self-made million dollar business owner. Let me see the books. Let me see the reality. Let me see your life. And then let's talk about it. You know, and I think, but if you tell the right people, the people that matter the most to you, the people that know you and respect you, that I didn't build this alone. I got a bunch of help. Well, who's the idiot stuck behind the wall that didn't just reach up and ask for help? That person's an idiot. The person who's like is so far down the obstacle course because they asked for help along the way. Does anybody say like, hey, you won the championship. How many times did you have to ask for help? Does that ever get asked? No, Tom Brady has like 6 coaches. Do you see Tom Brady out there going like, I did it, but I had to ask for help, so I'm kind of a bitch? No, not at all. Right. And I think this mindset of it's not okay to not be okay is hurting a lot of people because it's keeping them stuck behind obstacles that somebody else already knows how to overcome and could help them through. And it breaks my heart, man. It really does.
Yeah.
And that's not a pitch for coaching. I don't want people thinking like, oh, Mike's trying to go ask like, I have 500 YouTube videos for free. Like, go ask for help. It doesn't have to be like a paid to play type environment. There's tons of people out there that can help you for free. I'm one of them. Like, I have 300 podcasts, over 500 YouTube videos for free. There's no pay door. Just go watch, go do the work. You know, so I don't want that to seem like a pitch for coaching. It's not. It's a life preserver. It's giving you a line of go ask for help.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys need a coach, you know where to go. Either way.
I just didn't want it to come across like I was trying to pitch something.
No, I didn't see it come across as that. You mentioned something people are afraid to be weak. I've heard someone say that like when you're investing, you're going to feel broke where in reality that's making you rich, right? When you're unpacking the trauma, when you're asking for help, it makes you feel weak when in reality it's building you up. Or like when you feel stupid, that's when you actually got smarter, right? You focus on that feeling that it's making you feel, but you've got to look that it's the way you feel isn't how you are. You're actually progressing a step forward, right? You may not feel broke because you invested that or you asked for help, right? Or you feel dumb and you feel weak. Reality, you progressed. It made you stronger.
So I want to change your words, because words I think are important.
Yes.
Okay. I don't view that as being weak. There's a difference between weak and vulnerable.
Right.
There's two different things. When a warrior takes his gear off, when a warrior takes his armor off, he's vulnerable, not weak. And I think that's the difference. People attribute asking for help as weakness. I view it as vulnerability. At some point, I need to open up to say, like, this is what's really going on. I still have all the smarts. I still have all the money. I still have all the relationships. I still have all the things that made me strong the moment before I asked for that help. And so if you view it as weakness, weakness is tied to something bad.
Yep.
But vulnerability, which is, in my opinion, the same thing, it's a warrior who's strong taking his armor off to say, I'm not impenetrable. I am struggling and I do need help. I need to learn this. I need to overcome this. I need to seek guidance here. That warrior is no less strong in a moment of vulnerability, which could be viewed as weakness
because he has his armor
because
off.
he has his armor off, but he's not a weak person. And I think that's a misconception that I've seen a lot of. Even you just said it. It's, you might feel weak. No, like I don't ever feel weak. I feel vulnerable.
Yep.
And when I'm vulnerable, I'm taking this armor off to show, like, I do have scars.
Mm-hmm.
I do have wounds. I do have things that need to heal. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to go out there and kill some shit. I'm not weak because I'm vulnerable. I'm weak by not asking. The warrior that never trains, the warrior that never gets help, the warrior with no scars, no wounds, no need for help. That's the weak person because they've never done anything.
Is he really a warrior at that point?
But he's got the same armor on.
Right.
But underneath,
right,
he couldn't do anything with it. Do you see that? How that connects?
Yep. Dude,
we should write that down. Write that down, Cooper. That's a Mike's money motivation right there. He's like, I did. It's on the camera. Got it. Cool.
I'll watch this again.
Does that make sense, though? You got to change your words there, because if you say, well, I'm weak for asking for help, you're not going to want to. But I think what makes me such a great leader with my team is I'm willing to be vulnerable, not weak.
You're willing to say, okay, I messed up, or I'm struggling with this. And
I have scars and wounds. I need to heal. I need help. Like, I'm not a perfectly person. Like, I get beat up sometimes, but then I get back up and I move forward. That doesn't mean I don't have black eyes and cuts and scrapes and bullet holes and everything else, right? Like, I have scars and I have wounds. That doesn't make me any less strong. I think it makes you stronger, right?
Yeah.
Like, chicks dig scars, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at some point we're afraid to show them. It just doesn't make sense to
right.
me.
Yeah, because it's kind of what you were saying, like, the coaches are just social media in general. Like, that's kind of what it was created to show the highlights. And then it turns into people are showing the highlights, but they don't show, like, they show the time when they showed up. I'm guilty of this, right? Like, you show the time when you showed up at the gym, but then you don't post when you fail, right? You don't post when you hit the macros. And it's like, people only see the time when you show up, and it, kind of messes that view up. Where can people find you, connect with you, reach out to you, watch them videos, watch that podcast?
There's a lot, right? I've been consistently putting out content on a weekly basis for like 4 years. So if you go to MikeClaudio.com, that's kind of the hub for all my other stuff. If you want to look into our coaching packages, it's winrateconsulting.com. I'm at The Real Mike Claudio on Instagram, at Winrate Consulting on Instagram. It's just Mike Claudio on YouTube. It's the Big Stud Podcast. But if you go to MikeClaudio.com, it has the links for all the different platforms you can find us on.
I'll pitch and plug this. Like, if you guys need a coach, if you need some help in business, reach out to him. Go to Mike Claudio, The Real Mike Claudio, right?
It's at The Real Mike Claudio on Instagram.
Yep, on Instagram. Go sign up. If you need a coach, sign up for it. I'm signed up for it. It helped me tremendously. And this something I've wanted to always tell you is thank you for showing up, right? In the behind the scenes when you're behind the camera, although you're not my direct coach, but the way you showed up and your thought process, your mindset of just showing up and becoming 1% better has that the effect of that goes to me, right? Through the coach, through what you built.
Yep.
So thank you for that as well. If you guys need a coach or just want to say what's up, hit this guy up. Share this podcast if you found some value. If you think it's cool, share it with a friend on social media. Tag me and Mike. And appreciate you guys tuning in again. We'll see you next time. Peace.